So what were you saying? So mayonnaise in your coffee and
And
what
a
was the other-
banana with the peel.
banana with the
You eat
peel.
the peel. Yes, eat the peel and put some mayonnaise in your coffee. It's a good thing I don't
Yeah.
drink coffee today because I'm not putting
Yes.
mayonnaise.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's officially Will Levis Day.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
some of the stuff that came out with him in the draft, he puts mayonnaise in his coffee,
Wild.
turns people off. It's a little bit weird.
Eats the banana whole with the peel.
But
Yeah.
today, I think we celebrate that, right? I'm absolutely on board to put some
Yes.
mayonnaise in the coffee because of that
There you
game
go.
last night. Will Levis driving back, beating the Dolphins. What a fun game that was. But yeah, he looks good though. Like moxie, good throws, getting in people's teammates' faces when they make mistakes. Maybe not in a bad way, but a little encouragement, right? You like to see that stuff from a rookie. A lot of times
Yeah.
you see rookies, they don't do anything, right? Kind of walk off the field, sit on the sideline.
He was hyped. He
He's
was
hyped.
hyped. It was cool to see. Yeah, and the fact that Miami completely collapsed just makes it so much better.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
we're Bills fans. We've seen some epic collapses, okay? Some epic things but
Sure.
to see a team hand you a victory, the Tennessee Titans decided, guys, we don't want to win this game. We don't want to win this game. Let's just hand them the ball on the 5-yard line. I'll muff this punt. We'll give it to them. They can score a touchdown. And then they said, you know what, guys? A 7-point deficit just isn't enough. When we get the ball back, let's do this lateral toss to the running back so that, we give them the ball again on the 10-yard line and they can just run it in again for a touchdown. And that'll run enough time off the clock that it'll be a 14-point lead with 3 minutes. There's no way we're going to win that one. Then they should have a big enough lead. Miami had to try to lose. I mean, I still watched it happen. I watched it live. And I still am like mind blown that they lost that game. Because you and I were texting, and when the first fumble happened, when they muffed the punt, I was like, oh, God dang it, you idiots.
Yes,
you just blew it.
Punt. They had a pick six earlier.
Stupid ass mistake, and you let it cost you the game,
Easy interception on like the 5-yard line. Defensive tackle runs it in for a touchdown. I mean, that's just
they didn't want to win the game. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, I've never seen a game where the other team hands you all these gifts. There's so many gifts in this game.
So many.
I mean, Miami's like every time they scored, it was from Tennessee mistakes.
Yes,
it wasn't necessarily like like they're capitalizing on turnovers. I mean, they're starting at the 10-yard line. They're starting at the 5-yard line. Defense scored, right? Wild. And any time that Miami got a chance, when they got to the red zone because of their offense and driving down the field, they settled for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was just they were in the red zone a lot all day. And just to lose that game is just absolutely mind blowing. I've just never seen a game like that where there's so many gifts. This should have been 30-0.
It was like, and the defense just completely. I mean, I don't even know if there was anybody on the field for any of those.
Yes,
it was that bad to me. I mean, like the deep when they were up 14, when Miami was up 14, and Levis had to. It took them 3 or 2 plays to score a touchdown. I think it was 3 plays to score their first
3
touchdown.
Nice throws, yeah.
And it was quick, right? It was bam,
right
down the field.
They said like minute 10, something like that. It was fast.
With no timeouts used. So, I mean, that was
a
solid.
And they go for 2. And even on the 2-point conversion, the guy's wide open.
Yeah, that's
wild.
I could have converted that. I'm like, okay, like, where is the Dolphins defense all of a sudden? They just decided to, and you could see it on the field. They're just like walking with their shoulders down, like kind of casually, like, oh, it's okay. We have a 14-point lead. We don't really need to play defense. I was like, what the heck? Those guys are sleeping out there. Like, what is going on? And it's not like, this isn't like, the best team in the world on offense, the Titans.
Right. Well, they were struggling most of the day, and you expect that with a rookie quarterback, right?
Sure.
It's only his second or third start. I mean,
Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, you expect them to come down and be able to score like that. But Will Levis and this Titans team that quickly? Yeah. And to make it look so easy. I mean,
those last 2 drives, Will Levis was slinging it.
Oh, right? He did. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone's wide open too, but standing in the pocket, taking hits, making throws. I mean, he looked good.
Running the ball. Really good. He did. I liked it.
A lot to build around there in Tennessee. I think they got to be excited today.
Watching the Manning cast for a little bit, and they were talking about like a moment that you felt like you belonged, you were still the guy in the NFL, you know? And Peyton Manning mentioned a game his rookie season, which was not very good, but I forget who it was against, he said, like, "That was when I felt like I belonged because I drove down the field and I came back and we won the game. I brought the team back, and it was awesome, and it was we were a shitty team, but it was awesome, that experience." And this was that moment for Will Levis. Like, you could feel it
Sure.
watching the game, the energy he was giving off. He went in there and was like, 14 points, no problem. I got this. And I've watched him play other games and I haven't seen that. So I don't know why this was different for him, but he just felt like, no, we're doing this. And, and the guys around him made it happen. And I think a big part was the Dolphins defense disappearance. I wouldn't even
It's always interesting to me to watch rookie quarterbacks and how they interact with veterans. You'll kind of get an idea of how the locker room feels, right? And I feel like throughout that game, you noticed a few times, especially when Derrick Henry fumbled, it was clearly Will Levis's fault.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even talk to each other. Derrick Henry goes to the bench. Will Levis goes to the coach. Even with DeAndre Hopkins is wide open. Will Levis missed him. He goes to the bench. Will Levis goes to the coach. There's no interaction there. But at the end of the game, now they're, chest bumps. And, so I feel like he got a lot of respect from this game. Something to build off in the locker room, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what you want to see, and you have to earn it, right? And that's another reason why the NFL is so fun, and watching rookies play, especially quarterbacks, is so fun, right? That team chemistry, and the fact that you have to do it the hard way to earn respect in the locker room. Everyone's grown ass man, been in the league 10 years, right? You're brand new. You don't even know if you're going to be here in 2 years, right? So it's so fun to pay attention to.
I've watched his post-game interview too, right after the game ended. He was so poised. He said all the right things. He's like, look, I am excited because we just showed that those guys in this locker room are better than what our record says. And like, I think my teammates, we did this together. And, he said all the right things, and he wasn't, he didn't seem like, oh, this was a big moment for me, right? It just seemed like, yes, this is what we wanted to show you we're capable of. And that's what you want to see in a quarterback. He's not a cocky, arrogant, whatever. And he's not trying to take credit either. Right. So it's
right.
It was a good moment. I really like that too, because I hadn't really heard him talk much, but that was a moment where, you're on national TV, you're the center. Wow. You had this big comeback win. Everybody's watching because the first game was over already. And it was a good moment.
Yeah, I think you got to get excited when your quarterback takes on Jalen Ramsey and
that was
slams his ass. I mean, I know for the Bills fan base, that was so exciting when Josh did that. No one expected it at first when he was a rookie. But then when you see it, you're like, oh my God. It's like it just gets the whole fan base amped. It gets the whole team amped. I think everybody was amped about that except for Mike Vrabel.
I know he wasn't.
But fun game in Miami though.
Wow,
epic collapse. Look, they're still in a good position, right? But their schedule gets tough here. So, do you think they're vulnerable after that? Because now,
yes,
they only win against bad teams and they only lose against good teams.
That's the storyline with them.
But this Titans team was clearly a bad team. They gave you the game and you didn't take it, right?
You lost.
So. What do we think? Is Miami vulnerable? Obviously, Tyreek Hill was out, and they had a lot of game plan around him. So I'm sure that had a factor in this game. But still, are they vulnerable?
Absolutely, right? I mean, I've said that before we knew the records way back in September when the Bills were still in the first place, when the Dolphins took it over. I said then, like, don't worry. The last game won't be for the division because Miami collapses at the end of the year. They always do, it seems, right? And here we are in December football, and Miami loses to a bad team, which is exactly what they have not done this year. What good teams don't do is lose to really bad teams. I mean, there's a blip on the radar every now and then, but this Miami team specifically, the storyline with them is, they beat up on bad teams, but they can't beat good teams, which I don't always agree with because, that Denver team then versus now,
that's
totally different
at this point, right?
Yeah, it's definitely different, but that was, still, I think it's a week-to-week league, right? But when you're the Miami Dolphins and you're in first place and you're totally in control of your own destiny, you got to be sick of hearing the storyline of you can't beat good teams and whatever. And here they are, losing to a bad team, and now they've got a murderous slate coming up with the best player on their team, if not in the NFL right now, Tyreek Hill, banged up, and we don't know what his future is going to be. But one game of not great production, you can't imagine he's going to be at 100% for the next game. Never want to see guys get injured, but even with Tyreek healthy, they weren't playing well against good teams, right? So now without him, who knows what's going to happen? It's all open now.
Yeah, and we just got a comment that Miami Dolphins will be fine, just need to get healthy. They're definitely the most talented team in the league. I would say that, right? Innovative offense, high scoring.
Mm-hmm.
They've won a lot of comfortable games this year. We'll say that, but they are at second in the AFC at 9-4. Chiefs, Jaguars, Browns are all one game behind them, and the concern comes now. Miami's now got to play a very tough schedule, right? You got the Jets this weekend in Miami, and the Dolphins have played well at home. So it's Jets, Cowboys at home, and then they got to go to Baltimore, and then they play the Bills at the end of the year. And like you said, they haven't beat a good team yet this year, so they're going to have to win some of those games to win the division, to be in contention for the 1 seed, as they should be with the talent on their roster. But these games are going to be very important, and they're going to be huge for Miami. And it can go the other way too, right?
Yeah, they could lose. They could end up not in the playoffs with this. I mean, because the Jets just came off their biggest win of the year, right, by far. Friggin' Zach Wilson, 9 lives like a cat. You keep benching him. He comes back. You bench him. He comes back. You bench him. This time he came back, and he came back with a fury, right? They scored
30 and a half, right?
It was amazing what they did in that game. So, the Jets are no pushover, even just on their defense alone. When Zach Wilson was playing badly, you knew that they weren't a pushover. Divisional game, never a pushover. So I still expect that the Dolphins will win that game at home. They should, but that doesn't mean they're definitely going to. And even if they do, their real murderer's row is at the end when they're playing Baltimore, who's in contention for that 1 seed. Dallas, who's fighting.
The stakes are higher, right? The games
now
are tougher when the stakes are higher. No doubt about that.
And the Bills, obviously, who are going to have a lot to play for. So big time teams on their schedule. I wouldn't want to be in the Dolphins position right now. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, because a 2-game,
all the hype, now the pressure's
2
there.
games. If you win that Tennessee game, you're up 2 games on those teams, and that's a lot bigger advantage, right? But yeah, injuries are their issue. Connor Williams now out for the year. Last week they had Robert Hunt, Terron Armstead, offensive line, and Hunt was out. Armstead, I think, was out. Javon Holland is injured. And then they're just banged up, right? This time of year, most NFL players are banged up, but hopefully Tyreek Hill gets back and gets healthy. But that can set you back a little bit if you don't have your full team going at these big games, right? So that's something to pay attention to as well. So what do you think, though? Do they finish the season as the 1 seed? Who's your 1 seed pick?
Oh, it's Baltimore? Question mark. I feel like a team is going to end up backing into that position, right? They're not going to. Nobody's really taking a stranglehold on it. So right now, I think Baltimore has the best opportunity to take it, right? Kansas City has looked bad the past few weeks. I think they're really out of it. The Jaguars, obviously, with the injury and the loss this week, I know that Trevor Lawrence played, but he did not look great, and he had a lot of interceptions. I think they should have benched him, and they probably would have had a better chance to win. But they lose that game. Now they've backed themselves up a little bit. But those are the teams still in contention. And Miami, if they win out, obviously, if they win those tough games, then they will be up there. But I think Baltimore, without a doubt, has the best chance right now. And don't forget,
like you said, it could go any way, right?
My
a
preseason,
lot of teams could get it.
My preseason prediction was Baltimore losing to the Bills in the AFC Championship game. So not as the 1 seed, though. I had the Jags there for that. So we'll see how it shakes out. But they definitely have – it's in their hands, I think.
Yeah, and for the Bills, even with the win, they're still 11th in the AFC. They went down one position.
Did we? Wow. How did that happen?
So yeah, not going to be an easy road for them. We talk about it all the time. They just got to win all their games, and that continues to be true. We'll get on the Cowboys here in a second, but news around the league: Justin Herbert out for the year. killer for Chargers fans. Broke his index finger, so yeah, you gotta get that healed up. Got to come back next year strong. Going into the offseason, what do you think the Chargers need to do to get back on track here? Because that conversation of the Chargers are wasting Justin Herbert's prime years will start to happen next year, year after.
Yeah.
So what do you think they got to do? Just quick thoughts on what you would do.
Rebuild. I mean, yeah. So obviously, first thing they need to do is fire everyone, right? So they've been holding out on that, and I don't know why, but it's coming sooner or later. Even if they wait till the end of the year, we all know coach is dead in the water, GM's probably gone. Who knows? They're resetting there, right? So if it were me taking over the team, I think we've had a similar conversation about the Bills. You now have to build this team around Justin Herbert, right? So get him the good offensive linemen, get him the wide receivers and pass catchers he needs, tight ends, whatever your offensive style is, you're going to build it around Justin Herbert. Their wide receivers, I mean, Keenan Allen, although he's had a good season, is not getting any younger, right? Mike Williams, total injury problems. They need to rebuild there, right? You have to get that number one guy who's going to be the future. They just drafted a wide receiver.
They thought Quentin Johnson was that guy.
Yeah, but it hasn't turned out
excellent
in there. So I at least not yet. He's still young. You got to give the guy a chance, but you draft at that position again. Don't be afraid to go again at wide receiver because Justin Herbert is your quarterback. The idea then is
I agree with that.
The defense, I mean, you have to get these high paychecks and ship them out, right? It is not working. I don't know why, but unless they think they can get something out of Khalil Mack and the guys they brought in there, Jackson they've already shipped out, right? It's a mess on defense as well. So they have to bring in somebody who has a plan of what they like to do. Maybe it's whether that's, okay, we're building up the defensive line and the offensive line and the receivers. That's our focus. That would be me, and then you figure it out at the secondary and whatever, but you rely on your offense and that's what you build on and that's how you win games. But right now, they don't have an identity that they've been, pursuing, and they haven't been able to live up to the expectation or the hype of the rosters they've put together. So it's total rebuild, but you still have to focus on how to maximize Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and I agree. And you have some good pieces there with Austin Eckler, right? Mm-hmm. But it looks like, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are aging. You got to get younger. And when you do the mock drafts, on PFF or whatever, the Chargers are in a good position to get another good receiver.
Yeah.
But yeah, you always hesitate because they just took one last year. But I mean, like you said, I think that's a great point. Don't hesitate to take another receiver, right? You got Josh Palmer there, who's been a good piece, who's injured. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are under contract for 2 more seasons. But I mean, now's the time to
aging. Yeah.
Build.
And they're always banged up, right? You can't have one or two of them always out, right? And that's what I think, whether that means trading away one of them or just outright cutting them. I don't know what that situation is. Obviously, we haven't dug into Chargers cap situation or, what they can do dynamically with those
Austin
contracts.
Eckler is up at the end of the year, so he'll probably get top dollar. I think they can afford him, but I mean, it's a running back. So now we get into that conversation. What is top dollar?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think Austin Eckler will definitely be at the top of the running back.
He's worth it for sure. There's not a lot of guys who are worth it. He's proven he can be that guy with the carries and the catches and everything. He's going to be desirable on the market for sure. But we'll see.
Well, I mean, I had the Chargers at the top of the division in the AFC West. So, and that's the second year in a row. But I think a lot of people do because you want to see Herbert take the next step. I mean, he's such a physical gift when it comes to playing quarterback, and you want to see that Mahomes versus Herbert storyline play out, and it just hasn't, right? And it's because of the chaos within the organization. I don't think it has anything to do with the talent on the roster because they're on paper one of the best teams in the league, but they can't put it together, and they just continue to fall just short of the playoffs and then, miss out. And that's definitely the story this year, and just hate to see Justin Herbert out for the year. So now it's all about rebuild. It's all about focusing on negatives. Let's get these guys out of here. Basically, it becomes unwatchable at this point. So,
yeah, it's tough now with Herbert down too.
Oh, for sure. Next storyline, NBC Sports Boston. Tom Curran reporting, Patriots are going to part ways with Bill Belichick at the end of the year.
Yeah, this is huge news coming out tonight, and it's interesting, right? As a Bills fan, I'm kind of disappointed. I wanted Bill to stay and continue to run that franchise into the ground because that's what he's done the past few years as coach and GM and Emperor Supreme over there in New England. And it's just been a shit show to watch. It's hard to say anything else, right? He's put together a roster his way, which hasn't worked. You don't have Tom Brady, and your team has completely plummeted, right? It's the right move by New England.
Yeah.
If you're the owner, you take other factors out of it. The fact that this is your, guy who brought you so many Super Bowls and all that. It's time. It's just time to move on. It's time to rebuild. You're going to be bringing in a new young quarterback. Do they want to play for a Bill Belichick? No, right? Well, nobody wants to play for Bill Belichick.
Right, and Bill Belichick's schemes on offense have not changed.
Exactly.
And it's stale at this point. Hasn't worked out with Josh McDaniels, obviously, but it's like the same exact offense. Bill O'Brien's running the same offense that Josh McDaniels ran. And it's just the league has changed so much that it doesn't work anymore. The defenders are so much faster, right? Those delayed handoffs, you're just not getting as many yards, it seems like. And you got to score a lot of points, right? The defenses are at a disadvantage now. So you can't win with defense all the time. I think that is absolutely clear this year.
Yeah, I think that's what brings me to my other thought on this. When I heard, okay, yes, it seems like Bill Belichick will be leaving the Patriots. Will there be another franchise that hires him? In today's NFL that is so offensive centric, and he's a defensive mind, obviously he's got the track record, but if you're a rebuilding young team, you don't want Belichick. He's already proven he can't do that. He's not good at that. If you're a franchise with a good players, Chargers maybe, but no, why would you want Belichick? That doesn't make any sense. So I don't think there's a scenario where you walk in and you're hiring for a coach right now and you say Belichick is our guy. Or because Belichick's available, you're like, we're going to bring him in. I just don't see a fit around the NFL. Today's NFL, offensive-minded. We've talked about how all the defensive coaches are at the bottom or lowered expectations this year. And if you're hiring new, you're rebuilding. He isn't the right coach, even if you did want a defensive guy, because, again, he hasn't proven he can do that. He's made mistakes with that.
And I feel like owners who are savvy and who want to win, there's certainly the owners at the top who always have a competitive team, right? Those type of owners, I don't think go for Bill Belichick because they understand, that he's kind of from the old school. But I feel like some of these new owners, like the Commanders come to mind, bring in Bill Belichick. Why? Because hope sells tickets. And when Bill Belichick comes in, the fan base is hopeful. We got the greatest coach of all time.
You think they would pull that trick? I mean, maybe just to get the name, but yeah, I don't see it happening.
It's up. We'll see if he walks away and does TV. I know he had
especially if you're a team taking a quarterback. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. But look, if you're going to incorporate the Patriot way on another team, because that's what Bill's going to do. He's been doing the same thing for so long. It's not like he's going to come up with something fresh. You know what I mean? It's just the Patriot way on another team. And
exactly.
Warning to him, it hasn't worked on any other team, as we've seen with Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia getting head coaching gigs that didn't last long.
Right. It's
it's a warning for him. It's like you could go to another team and be bad. Just heads up.
And the other half of this
legacy.
The other half of this is then who does New England hire? I know they're high on Gerard Mayo, but is he ready to be a head coach? I don't think so yet.
If the reports are true, like it'll be somebody around the organization.
Exactly.
Right?
Somebody who's already there. And And you have to think they're bringing in a new quarterback, right? You assume with their top five pick,
about Mike
Vrabel quarterback,
right? There was talk around that, but I mean, it's
maybe you could see that, but it still would be right, because you're bringing in a young quarterback. That quarterback is going to want an offensive mind, to develop him, right?
Yeah, sounds like it's going to be a shit show for a while. Because that culture is so proud, and B, it's been there so long. It's been one way for so long. Like change is not normal for New England and the organization, right? So, like new quarterback, new coach, it's going to be rough for a while until you figure out what your new identity is. And even when you figure that out, you're always going to be compared to recent history. You know what I mean? So it's going to be tough, and I don't see them being competitive for a while. So
yeah. And we'll see what happens. We got a lot of comments about Mac Jones, which is interesting too, because obviously he has not been able to develop under Bill Belichick and this Patriot team. And it'll be interesting to see where he ends up next. I do think he's a serviceable backup in today's NFL, right? He has a lot of starts. He's capable, and I think a fresh start would do him good, right? Meaning leaving the Patriots.
It has to be by trade. He has one more year on his contract, and then they got the 5th-year option coming up.
He'll be likely just be cut though, because he's it's not.
Yeah, well, I think someone would trade for him. I think just because it's cheap. You know what I mean? And he's a serviceable backup. I'm trying to think of like a quarterback who has injury issues, or one of these teams that's going to draft a quarterback next year. Mac Jones in the room.
Yeah, it's just a better thing to have.
He's seen it, right? As long as he's up for that. But it come like Mitch Trubisky's situation comes to mind. Like Mac Jones going to go somewhere where he thinks he's going to start, then he's going to get benched for a rookie, right? That's kind of he's going to play that bridge role.
Carolina, right? Like I could see him going there and being a backup, and that would be just one off the top of my head now. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with him. But he's got to end up somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, like somewhere like the Rams or something like that, I think would be.
Yeah, it would be another one. Yeah, because they always you can't.
Stafford getting older, and what's the plan after him? Well, we can get him in here and see what he's got, right?
Yeah, why not for free?
Give him a break.
Right? Yeah.
So yeah,
not in saves on your salary cap if you're the Rams. That's a good pick too.
Right, and I don't know if they wouldn't keep him either. Right, he might be open to help a rookie quarterback. Who knows? So anyway. All right, Bills defeat Chiefs 20-17. Whew, get in, get the win, and get out. Right, we like that. But
took us
a lot of comments, a lot of media coverage on this, and the Chiefs brought a lot of attention to themselves with the way they reacted to the offsides penalty. Pat Mahomes has since apologized, which is respectable, right? But Chiefs, man, they're just facing adversity, and I understand their frustrations. I mean, it's like 3 games in a row where receiver drops a game-winning touchdown. Receiver would have caught it, another touchdown if he didn't get interfered with, which wasn't called, right? That's frustrating. And then now this. But one thing I wanted to point out was Travis Kelce, would have been a great play, historical play. It also was so close to being one of the most disastrous plays of all time. Cam Lewis, if you watch the replay, was inches away from knocking the ball down, and that would have been a fumble.
Yeah.
So, not a good idea by Travis Kelce. I understand it worked out and everything looked great, but it also could have been an absolute disaster.
Sure, but you can't would have, could have, the penalty was thrown ahead of time. I was so angry at people for bringing this up. Listen, you whiny little bitches, right? Go home. You lost. Get over it. You are the darling of the NFL. You get every call your way, every single game. The NFL has handed you Super Bowl wins. You have won 2 Super Bowls. Go home, sit on your trophies, and be happy, okay? Because you lost this game. It's not like it was taken from you or, we were robbed. You lost. Plain and simple. You want to talk controversy? Forget that play. The Kelce incomplete pass, as called on the field, gets reviewed for literally 12 minutes. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, okay, how can we make this a catch?
I mean, we're all staying at the house.
Every shot they showed of it. Every shot they showed of it. The ball is moving. How the hell can you tell me there is conclusive evidence to turn that into a complete pass?
We thought the same thing.
It was absolute bull crap, okay? And I said that every replay you can see the ball is moving. It's not a catch. And yet somehow the call on the field, by the way, is incomplete pass. You need conclusive video evidence to overturn anything.
Right, because we've seen that play.
This is the Chiefs.
We've seen that play reviewed so many times that when the ball's moving, it's incomplete. That's not possession.
One of the biggest questions in the NFL is, what is a catch, right? Well, that wasn't a catch, okay? Because he's bobbling it, and it gets knocked out. And all of a sudden, oh, wait, it was a catch and then a fumble. and then he gets the ball there.
Right. Yeah.
Are you kidding
weird.
me? And they
Well, it's
score
funny
a
'cause
touchdown that drive. Like,
they put
get out
themselves
of
in a
Dodge.
hole on that one because in another game, the Kelsey catch and the Latavius Murray catch could have both been incomplete. But because they set precedence on the Travis Kelsey catch,
Yes.
they had to give it to Latavius Murray, which was a big play in the game.
The
right?
Murray
So it's
catch
like,
was a catch, though. I
it
thought.
was, but I mean, it was boom, boom.
The
It coulda
Kelsey
went either
one
way. Coulda
ruled
went
an
either way.
incomplete pass, and you spent 12 minutes to figure out how can we call this a catch.
Yes.
It was
It's funny,
It
though.
was absolute bull crap. And then they're the ones crying because the flag that was called on them was an actual penalty that they were committing, and like egregious penalty thrown before they got the touchdown. Not to mention, give them the touchdown. Give it to them. Great. You scored the touchdown. You now have the lead. And Josh Allen's coming out with 2 minutes and 3 timeouts. Get out of here. You still lost the game. So I don't give a crap. They wanted to cry. Oh, they took it away from us. Bull crap. We were going to beat your ass anyway because we still had 2 minutes on the clock.
Well,
you scored too fast.
It was interesting from the fan perspective watching the game because when the Bills went three drives that were 3 and out in a row, I thought for sure the Chiefs are going to capitalize, right? They had the fumble. I think they punted one of those drives, but this is not the same Chiefs team is what my conclusion was. Like the whole time after those 3 and outs by the Bills, there was the 3 in a row there.
Yep.
I thought for sure the Bills had lost the game at that point. And when the clock ran out, I was so shocked that we actually won. It took me like literally 12 hours to realize the Bills won.
I was going to say the same thing, that there was
just didn't feel right.
It was like going to the peak of the roller coaster, knowing you're going to fall down.
Yes.
And then you just get off. You just got off.
Yeah, you just got off.
You didn't go down.
Like, oh, we won?
We
won.
We didn't lose. Where's what?
Yeah.
And it's amazing how, as Bills fans, that's our preparation. Our body we just knew, like, oh shoot,
defense mechanisms.
It's coming, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Like, but we won the game, and again, they won it rightfully.
Yes.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was not happy
lead.
about a lot of the things that the Bills did in this game. You know,
well, a lot to unpack, right? A couple of things I had here was the Bills struggle against man-to-man, but Diggs is 11 targets, 4 catches, and just 20 yards or something. So he's not involved. You have no one else to turn to. There's no one else to turn to. So what does Joe Brady do? He turns to James Cook, which I thought was brilliant. That's something we haven't really seen a lot, which we were all high on James Cook's receiver ability in the draft process, and we've kind of been waiting for that to show up. And in this game, it actually did, right? That was a good time to dial that up, right? So yeah, then he disappears, which was a little questionable. And I think Joe Brady had a good explanation that was more situational and less about getting him off the field. It was just, hey, we're third and short. We're trying to pound the ball to get yardage because we're struggling, right? So it kind of changed the perspective there. But yeah, I thought the Bills' defense, the defensive line was phenomenal in this game. They deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah, even opening drive, right? Opening drive.
Yeah.
They're driving. I'm like, just hold them to a field goal, and then we get a touchdown, and then we have momentum, right? That's what I was thinking the whole time. Just give up a field goal. Don't give up a touchdown. Hold them. And then they're driving. It looks like they're commanding. And then all of a sudden, Epinesa with the block to interception, right?
Yes,
that was
huge.
Phenomenal play to start the game. And then he ends up getting hurt, unfortunately. But
he's going to play himself right off the team next year.
So, yeah, right. Yeah.
He's had a great year. He really has.
Yes. What's he got? 6 turnovers? Oh
my God. It's that same play, too. Just jump up. He's such a tall guy with length. Jump up and knock the ball down. It's been huge all year for us. Talked about Stephon Diggs, but again, there's nowhere to throw it to after Diggs, right?
Well, I would argue, and I have been for weeks, that guy is Khalil Shakir, and you need to get it to Shakir. And obviously, the tight ends were productive in this game when given the opportunity, right? Kincaid had a pretty decent game, not numbers-wise, but catches and production.
Yeah, the ball spread around a lot.
You put those two together, and you have a pretty good reception there, right? Knox had a couple of big catches. Kincaid's fourth down catch, oh my God, that was the play of the game, probably. He was just right there where Allen needed him to be, and he just catches the ball going to the ground. He's reliable for that. So that was an awesome play too. But offensively, I've been making the argument that the number 2 needs to be Shakir. He had 1 catch in this game, 1 opportunity, 1 catch. Why aren't we getting him the ball more? Gabriel Davis.
He's not really an outside receiver, and then they put him there, but he's not like
Well,
Gabe Davis can blow the top
but
off.
the
He
whole
has pretty
time,
long speed.
they were being creative with the mix-ups, right? I just mean he has to be on the field. If you're doing 12 personnel, both tight ends, which they did a lot in this game, the other wide receiver on the field should be Shakir, not Gabe Davis. It should be Shakir. Put him on the inside. Put Kincaid on the outside, right? Make him the Y. Okay, that's crazy, right? Make Knox the Y. I don't care. Just find a way to put your best players on the field.
They don't have an X receiver, and that's what you're talking about. They don't have an X, right? Because the X receiver needs to be able to stretch the defense, right? Get the safeties to go a certain way, get the corners out of the way so you can run a screen or whatever. Shakir's strength is slot receiver.
Correct.
He's good on the inside routes, right? Which Kincaid is taking some, Knox is taking some of that as well. But this has been the story for this whole season. They're missing a reliable X receiver.
Yeah.
And look, Gabe Davis had opportunities in this game. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but we could use an upgrade.
Big time, because you started this by saying the Bills have a tough time against man-to-man, mainly when the first man can cover Diggs. If the first man, which is a tall task, right? If they're and obviously Snead is one of the best, he has been shutting everybody down, and he did with Diggs in this game too. One of worst games as a Bill, I'd say, for Diggs, right? Like, I mean, he had that drop on the 2-minute. We haven't even gotten to that, but it's
a lot of coordinator stuff with that as well. Just
to finish the point on the wide receivers, though, Gabe Davis cannot beat man-to-man. He looks like a slug out there in man-to-man, right? Like,
a straight line. He can beat straight line speed, but
just run. But he's got to run the route, right? And he was open in the end zone for one play, but I think that play, pressure on Allen, he had to get rid of it quick. He wasn't looking at Gabe, or didn't have the time to throw it that way. And even if he did, we know that the number one thing about Gabe Davis is he's not reliable. You don't know what he's going to do. You can't think he's going to make that catch in the end zone. You can think maybe he drops it, maybe he fumbles it. That's just how inconsistent he is. Yeah, I mean, you hope he catches that one if it goes his way. But again, that was just a botched play.
And that is an interesting
play.
Pressure
on Allen, he had to
when
get
you
it
look
out
at it, because it looks like Allen saw him and just got locked on to Kincaid. Could have been the pressure.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was
a lot of pressure. But I mean, man, that was the deal right there.
He also happened to roll to the side, so it wasn't. He likes to throw across the field. I think if he had rolled to the left and Diggs Gabe Davis was to his right, he would have let that go. But because he went the same direction that Gabe did, it made it harder to for him to get that ball out, and that's why he ended up going to Kincaid. But I mean, that's one play in the game, that's going to happen. Right. And that happens to every quarterback. But I think there is a chemistry problem between Gabe Davis and Josh Allen. And I said that in week 3 or 4, and it stems from his inconsistency. You don't want to throw it to a guy that tends to make mistakes or can make big mistakes, right? That takes away from them making big plays in the moment.
Yeah, something's up there, because this could have been the second week in a row Gabe Davis has a game-winning touchdown. He could have had 2 in a row, and our conversation's completely different. But Josh, the first one, missed the route. Josh kind of threw it in the wrong place. And then, this one, he just doesn't throw it to him. And whatever reason that is, it's pressure. I mean, it's hard to play quarterback. So you can't really put it on one thing. But we could be having a completely different conversation, because he was wide open in both scenarios, right? So yeah, just got to build off that, right? So it's interesting. Chiefs in their playoff scenario right here. Let's see, they're 8-5. They're only 1 game ahead of the Denver Broncos now.
But they have the tiebreaker with them.
They have the tiebreaker now, and I think their schedule lightens up a little bit. Pull that up real quick.
Yes, they do. I remember they have a lighter schedule coming up now. I think they still play the Chargers, which now that Herbert's gone, that's an even easier matchup.
Right. You got to think, after the negative press they're getting, there's going to be motivation. You've lost 2 in a row. They're going to come out hot, I would assume.
Sure.
They're at New England this weekend. They have the Raiders on Monday night, or I guess it's Christmas Day at 1 p.m. Monday. And then the Bengals at the Chiefs, which should be a good matchup, even with the backup, Jake Browning for Cincinnati's been playing well. And they finished the season at the Chargers. So really, they're in a good spot here. Got to win the games that you're supposed to win. But again, 1 seed, it's going to be kind of tough. if they win all of them, obviously they have a real good shot at getting the 1 seed. But again, do you think they drop one of these next 4 games?
Oh, definitely. They haven't been playing well enough for me to say they're going to dominantly win anything, right? If anything, the last 2-3 weeks, they've been absolutely trending in the wrong direction. And this game just added to that. The Chiefs didn't capitalize on anything. They didn't look like they could make the big play on offense, right? Pat Mahomes looked like he was trying his damnedest to make a play happen, but doesn't have the pieces around him to do so. And even the biggest plays in this game, who did they go to? Kelsey, right? The one guy we know that he can rely on.
Right.
Nobody else was there, basically. So
yeah, I think missing Pacheco hurt them
Pacheco,
a lot.
yeah, right,
sure.
because they've relied on the run game to really keep that offense going. And now that if Pacheco remains out, they're really going to have a struggle. So I'm not picking them to run away with anything. I think they managed to scrape away and win the division, ahead of the Broncos still. But I think they end up as, the 3 seed at best because they're going to win the division. But there's still going to be either the Jags or the, Ravens ahead of them and possibly Miami, depending on how that works out. Or the
Jacksonville's still alive too to get ahead
now
of them.
Now that the Bills have the head-to-head, if they really falter, then the Bills could jump ahead and they could be the 4 seed. So
that'd be wild.
It is.
Yeah,
so,
but it looks like they're going to get at least one road playoff game, which will be interesting.
And they've never had to do that. Pat Mahomes has never had to play a road playoff game.
Yeah, it's a lot tougher, especially if you have to go up north, right? I don't think they end up going to Buffalo.
Oh, I would love that. I don't think it happens, but I would love it.
But like going to Baltimore, that's not an easy place to play.
Nope.
You know what I mean? I guess they're in the clear with Miami and Jacksonville.
Yeah, right. At least
they're going south. But I mean, this is the year though, and this is why it's frustrating. If the Bills had won the Jets game, if they beat New England, they're in that conversation to host the Chiefs in the playoffs, and that would be ideal, right? Because the Chiefs are vulnerable. Awesome. You got to go to Buffalo. It's going to be snow.
That was my ideal scenario. Like
again,
I said,
not going to go there because we got embarrassed last year with that conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, moving on. Let's go to your Week 14 Pick 6 recap.
Can we skip this segment? My worst week ever. We've been doing this. I've been doing my picks for 3 years on Tally Site on the record, right? But really 6 years with the podcast that we've been doing our weekly picks. And I've been, very, very good at this. And this by far was my worst week ever. So, I mean, 1 win.
You lost all of them? Oh, one win.
1 win. 1-5.
Yeah, that's rare.
That's, brutal. It's embarrassing.
Well, that's what's funny about this is
and the previous week I almost went 6-0. I was 5-0, and
that's just how it goes.
Yeah, that's.
I always laugh when I see like the betting analysts on ESPN and they said, "Oh, we had another rough week. We'll have to rebound." And it's like you're just guessing. Look, it's a big guess. The NFL is both teams are too talented. We watched the Titans Miami game. It's a good example of why betting is.
If you can stay above 50%, you are very good at this, right? And even with a 1-5 week, I'm still at 58 point something %,
which is
on the year, which is phenomenal, right? Like and last year I was up at 70%, which is unthinkable. Like the NFL would be chasing after me. Vegas would be kicking me out if they knew that, right? So, I mean, it's still a very good year. And I know that these weeks happen. As a gambler, you have to be aware that these things happen and moderate accordingly. And so I'm not hurting after those losses this week because I had a big week the week before and I didn't double down on that. I did the reasonable thing. And, I did win some afternoon parlays. I think I showed you 2 of them. My morning parlay, I went 0 for 4 with my picks, but my afternoon parlay, 4 for 4 and won that one. So yeah, it was an interesting contrast with the day and night game or morning and evening games. So yeah, it was still a brutal week. We have to rebound just like, anybody would. But I'm excited for the picks coming up now that the bye weeks are over. It's going to be more on the table there, more meat on the bone.
Yeah, you did get a comment on the video last week. Best bets of week 14. Damn, yo, You must have lost a lot of money in week 14. Yes.
That's true. But we're still at 58%. And it wasn't a lot of money because, again, I wasn't like all in on these bets. The biggest bet I made wasn't even in there, and that was the Bills, right? So, of course, I felt good about that one. And I said specifically in my picks, I'm avoiding putting them in because I don't want to jinx them again. But
Yeah.
yeah, it
Maybe you should add that to the show. Like,
wasn't a bad week.
I'm putting this much, not a lot on this week.
Yes,
I'm putting
right.
X% on this week versus
do.
other weeks because you're
Correct.
more confident on their weeks. I mean,
Correct.
That's
I really do say that sometimes that like, okay, my confidence level is here. But like I mean, you picked the Texans, right? That was my team. But you can't account for Nico Collins getting injured in the first quarter, right? And then their defense taking control. You're already without Schultz, who was questionable at the time I made the pick, right? So it really, handcuffed that offense that I was looking for. So and the Jets had their best game ever on offense, obviously,
Right,
for the
right.
season.
Yeah.
Which happens, right? That's one fluke game. But then you have the Lions. That was another loss where it's like, okay,
Right.
this
Bears
team
look good.
their statement win against the Bears, right? A rival that they should play well against, and they crap the bet again, right? So it's interesting. Every game has its quirks, and you have to know accordingly. And I
Right.
do try to say coming in how confident I am
Yeah.
about them.
Jacksonville made a lot of mistakes. Kind of
Yes, they were
uncharacteristic of
getting
them,
points.
right?
I really like that, but they ended up blowing it just enough to not cover that. So yeah, it was a rough.
Who would have thought Joe Flacco would be, playing well for Cleveland, right? So
Correct. He's
it's a tough
very
one to
well.
predict.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, he was playing well the week previous, but I
Right.
think Jacksonville made the mistake. Even in my picks, I said with the backup, I like this pick. But they played an clearly injured Trevor Lawrence, who was not playing himself,
Mhm.
through 3 horrid interceptions that
Yes.
like
And
I
we
could have
see that
caught.
with him occasionally, right?
Looked like he was
Horrid games.
throwing it to them guys.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, I mean,
And the Vikings just haven't been the same team. I don't know what happened to them. They were hot with Josh Dobbs and now Nick Mullins in.
they won. So that was,
Yeah.
yeah, getting
But
points. That was
the
the pick.
confidence level on them is different, though. You know what I mean?
Correct.
They,
Yeah,
they
it
were
was
hot
it was
for a
more
while.
the matchup that put them in my pick 6 because of the Raiders. I figured they would be able to do better than the Raiders. Now I didn't have the score ending up 3-0, that's for sure. In a
Yeah.
2-minute,
Coin flip game, right?
yeah,
That's
2-minute field goal with 2
3
minutes left.
nothing.
4
Lord.
quarters with no score. I mean, that's rough, right? Just rough football. I'm glad I
Yeah.
didn't watch that game. That's for sure.
Yes. And that's just how it goes. But it's been a while since we've seen a 3-0 game, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, not great.
Tough one to lose if you're the
Especially
defense.
2 dome teams. Come on.
Yeah.
Dome teams. All right, playoff picture for the Bills. We've gone through a lot of scenarios. Basically, 9-8 doesn't get it done. The difference, though, with the Miami loss to Tennessee is they have a shot to win the division at 10-7.
It's
Right?
wild.
If Miami loses, what's their record? Miami's 9-4, so they'd have to lose 3 of the next 4 games. Which, when you look at their schedule, which we already mentioned, is definitely not. It's not crazy to say that could happen, right? And I think Miami's a good team. I would not bet that they would lose 3 of the next 4, but it's definitely a plausible scenario now, and that's what changes with this Titans loss, right? Miami's got Jets, Cowboys, Ravens, Bills in that order.
Really tough stretch for them.
Tough stretch, and with Justin Herbert out, I mean, the Bills gets a little easier, right? They got Dallas, which is tough, and then they have the Chargers, the Patriots.
Both at home.
And it all comes down to Miami, but the Bills have to win the Chargers, Patriots. Those are must wins.
Mm-hmm.
You could afford to lose one with Dallas because they're a good team. I mean,
correct.
We're about to get into the details here with them, but
you don't want to lose any game to this if you're in the Bills position, right? You have to go in saying we need to beat the Cowboys. But the outcomes of the other games this weekend, the week 14, created a buffer for the Bills to say, okay, even if we play our hearts out and we lose a tough one against Dallas, we can still say, all right, on to the next. We still got this, right? And multiple.
Then you'd have to win all of them, though.
Correct.
That puts pressure on the Miami.
All of them, but multiple ways to get in if you win all of them.
Right.
Even if Miami wins, you can still get in as a wild card.
Correct. But if you beat Dallas, you win the games you're supposed to win in
them.
The Chargers and
And the division is in your hands.
Right. Well, then you could afford a loss to Miami and still get in. Right. So this Dallas game then becomes important if you're looking ahead.
Yes.
You'll have less pressure later in the year.
The picture's really coming into focus for the Bills now, right? Like,
but this Dallas game's not going to be easy for them, right? We'll get into that in a second here, but I just want to talk about the matchups this weekend, which we'll talk more about on Thursday on our preview show. Vikings Bengals. We have Steelers Colts, Denver at Detroit, Jets Miami, obviously. The Texans at the Titans. Texans still in the mix there. And the Bears, who are coming off a big win, play at Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And those are obviously there's the Baltimore and Jacksonville game as well, but that's what I'm really talking about is the 7-6 teams, right? We need some losses.
Yeah, and the good thing for the Bills is 3 of those were against NFC opponents, right? So we're rooting hard for. We are big time Vikings fans. We are big time Bears fans. We are big time. Who was the third one? Lions.
Detroit. Yeah. NFC North.
NFC North. Here we come, right? Yes. Like those 3. We need big performances from to help us out for sure. And then the Steelers Colts one is a tough one. Steelers win, they get another advantage. Colts lose. I mean, yeah, it's
and the Browns are a game up on the 7-6 team. So if they get another win, now they're 2 games up. It's looking really good for them.
Yeah.
And that only leaves 2 spots for all these teams. So
correct. And the Bengals are still playing really well, with their backup. It's a tight race. And we knew that's where the Bills' disadvantage was because they don't have a tiebreaker with a lot of those teams.
Right. They're at the bottom. There's a huge tie at 7-6, and the Bills are 11th in the AFC. That's just where they are, which brings us to Dallas, right? Dallas, after the bye week, they're averaging 38 points per game. Overall in the season, 32 points per game. That's the highest in the NFL.
Very,
even over
very
Miami.
good right now. Yeah. With the 70-pointer. Yeah, I mean, Cowboys are playing very good football, and I'd say they're probably trending in the direction of playing their best football right now, right? They just took down their biggest rival. You could say that this is the come-down game. That would be great. The Bills would love to be the, come-down game. Oh, we got all hyped for the Eagles. We needed to win that game. Now the division's in our sights, and, they come to Buffalo and fallen asleep, and the Bills are able to capitalize and eke out a win. I'll take that, right? You want that to be the scenario. Yeah, unfortunately, for the Cowboys, the Bills are playing very well coming into this game too. Not quite our best yet, but I think this is going to be a big one. And the fact that it's in Buffalo is going to make a big difference. Even in Vegas right now, the Bills are 1.5 point favorites. So that I was a little bit surprised at. But we're at home. Cowboys, obviously, their defense is the story, right? Like their defense is so electric. And the thing I've noticed watching Cowboys games that they've won and lost, when their Cowboys are able to get a lead, they run away with it because their defense will score on you. Their offense will wear you down and score on you. And that's how they put so many points on the board. So if you can hold their defense and take a lead, I think that's the best way to capitalize. But we'll get more into that, obviously, on Thursday.
Yeah.
And big win for them coming against the Eagles. That's going to be.
Yeah. And you got to guard 88.
Oh, God.
He's so dynamic.
80 is, and the chemistry that they are really on the same page right now. Like they could just, Dak throws it up and CD's there, right, to make the big play. So, definitely got to be on your toes with that connection.
Right. And then one thing I said during, after the game last week is Josh got to be very decisive in the offense. The Cowboys defensive front is so fast that you really can't afford to run around a lot because they're going to catch you. You're not going to be able to run away from them like other teams, right? So got to be decisive, quick release, which we've seen this season. It's going to be tough for Josh to run around back there. So I think they got to find a way to dial some quick slants or, some quick routes.
Well, I would argue that this is the game you want to see a lot of quarterback runs, right? Design quarterback runs because that is where when they're coming off the edge like that, you shoot up the middle, and it's a timing thing. Obviously, you can't do that all the time. You got to rely on the running backs to take the brunt of it. But Josh Allen's the type of guy, he can plow those guys over and really find those open holes when there's 4 guys rushing, right? And we'll see. I really like this matchup. You've heard me say it before. I think this matchup favors the Bills for a lot of reasons, and we'll get more into that on Thursday. But I'm really excited for this game. It's certainly now every game is going to be, but this is the game of the year for the Bills, and it was one that
Yep.
was circled on the calendars to start the season. So
Right. The last leg of that tough stretch, right? We had Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys. Got it. We said they had to get the 2-1 in that 3-game stretch. And this is the opportunity, right? 1 and 2 is going to make it a lot tougher.
mhm.
That Miami game becomes so much more important if the Bills lose this game. So this one, if you want to take the pressure off a little bit, they have the opportunity to do that right here. Bad news: Cowboys have won 5 games in a row, but
Coming in real
all
hot.
of their losses this season have been on the road at Arizona,
Mhm.
at San Francisco, and at Philadelphia.
All
Yeah,
teams with similar things in common. Very good offenses, right? So,
yes. Well, except for Arizona, maybe.
well,
That was
game
before
a fluke
Kyler Murray
game.
was back too. But yeah,
Yeah.
fluke. That happens, and they're due. They're due for a fluke game. I mean, they've scored over 30 points in the last 5 games as well.
Yeah, and bottom line, I do think the Bills are better than the Cowboys overall roster. I mean, there's certainly better players on the Cowboys defense, but overall rosters, you look at these two teams, I'll take the Bills. So I that's why I think it'll be a fun game to watch, but Bills will have the advantage. Vegas thinks so too.
But yeah, we'll get into details. Talk MVP. Dak Prescott probably in the conversation for MVP at this point.
Certainly.
Probably would win it today.
Certainly, yeah.
We'll get all that ready for you on Thursday. Be sure to tune in. Week 15 preview show going live at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on all major podcast platforms. If you missed the live show, no big deal.
And as always, thanks for kicking it with us.